Alright, we're back.
Hey, bud.
What's up, Nate? How you doing?
Doing alright. It's definitely feels like it's been a long week since the last time we did one of these. Had a big full weekend, which was great and enjoyable. But then coming back from that, definitely low light of the week was had this deal that I was going to close. That was going to be like half my year and have a champion, which for the audience, a champion in sales terms is somebody in the account that likes you, that evangelizes for you, that knows the ins and outs.
Yeah.
And you can get by without a champion and like transactional things, but for the big picture, big dollar stuff,
Yeah.
need a champion. Great guy. And thought that we were going to get this done in mid-August and found out Monday that it's not going to happen. So that's been a huge bummer for me, over my head all week. My boss is super cool about it. Took the position that, we could be 98% through procurement a day before close and something like this could happen. So that's cool. But when you get... There's always so many like irons in the fire. There's always so many different deals going on. But when you get this far with one and it doesn't cross the finish line, it hurts.
And it's fully dead, or is it just like pushed out potentially?
Yeah, it's dead in the sense that if it happens, it's not going to happen for a year.
Okay.
It's not like next quarter or something like that. Yeah. Which is a bummer. And it's one of those things where I really don't want to talk about like the company I work for or like bore folks with technology, but it's one of those things where it's a frenemy, another ecosystem partner that does bits and pieces of what we do for free. Like, yeah, we can't. My boss said I have to try the free thing first. So like, okay.
Oh, that's so brutal.
Yeah, but I am grateful that I do work for a pretty cool company and have a pretty cool boss. So just on to the next one.
Yeah.
And deals come and go all the time, but like I said, when one gets this close, it doesn't happen. That's my negative certainly for the last week, which has been bugging me like literally right up until I came through the door this afternoon.
I could definitely feel a vibe coming off you when you came in.
Mm-hmm. But other than that, usually we drift towards this topic at the end of these things. I think something to talk about first and foremost is Nathan Kelly, media time. We were excited to finish the Fast and the Furious franchise that's been released to date, and we knocked that out, checked that box on Friday.
I shed a tear.
Mm-hmm.
It was...
Was it that part of the very end?
I mean, just the whole thing in general,
in
the very end as well, but... I mean, we were on such a ride. We've been at this for months. I mean, I've seen all the previous films except this last one we just watched, so it wasn't like a surprise. But it was so much fun watching it with people who haven't seen them before, or if they had, they just really don't remember it and process it, weren't as accepting of the amazing cinematic masterpieces that they became.
Mm-hmm.
And... it was just a bummer because, I mean, I always look forward to midweek, everybody texting, is it a Fast Friday? Are we doing it?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's over, at least until the next one, but then the next one we'll probably have to go see in theaters.
Right.
So...
and that's not like this year even, right?
No, that's next year, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, it's super bittersweet. It was an awesome movie. I mean, I loved it. I loved every bit of it. Just... I always hate finishing things. I mean, again, I know there's another one coming, but when you have something that's... you watch everything that's out already, or you, like, finish a series of TV, it's always pretty emotional, because you get so...
Whoops.
Damn it, Nate. I might be able to edit that out. But you get so attached to the stories and the people, and not even just the actual movie, just the experience. You guys coming over, like, Jeremy started drinking a little with us, and it's been a lot of fun. I mean, remember when I made that Easter egg hunt game for us to play for a drinking game?
Very much so. That inspired me doing a drinking game for my birthday. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of magical moments between just us friends, as us family, me familia is what I was going for.
Me familia.
But yeah, it was a great time. Anyone out there listening that hasn't seen them, you gotta go see them. I mean, you not go see them, watch them at home, and yeah,
Definitely worth watching. The production values, the settings. That's something that they've really been knocking out the park in these last few.
Mm-hmm.
Like Hobbs and Shaw was a really big setting movie.
Yeah.
This one, they've got so many like threads going as far as like different characters and so and so's mom in London and different pop artists coming in that are head of a single cell of a giant thief network or whatever. That's all real interesting. I said this about Hobbs and Shaw, that the franchise kind of teeters between silly action and no seriousness, and that still my favorite blend of the two was the fourth movie, and particularly that one part of the fourth movie.
Yeah.
And I said with Hobbs and Shaw that they just abandoned the seriousness and were like just full-fledged silly action.
Yeah.
And they went back to the formula of trying to teeter between the two. I think they did pretty good.
I mean, again, you keep bringing up Hobbs and Shaw. That was not in the original. That's not. I don't. It's not part of the Fast and Furious theme. It was an offshoot. Basically, I just viewed it as it happened in a different universe. It was just
a different universe.
I mean, kinda.
Okay.
I mean, not maybe a whole different universe, but I don't know. I didn't go into this last movie thinking that they'd bring anything up from Hobbs and Shaw. Like, there wouldn't be mentions to it. I don't think there were.
There weren't, because there was something you said was a spoiler. I don't think it's necessarily a spoiler, but there was at the end. No, throughout Hobbs and Shaw, there was an antagonist behind the scenes.
Uh-huh.
Which I assumed would be brought up in this movie, and was not. So that speaks to your theory.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it is because The Rock didn't want to be in this one.
I wasn't gonna spoil that, but yeah.
That's not a spoiler.
It definitely
that was headlines. Like, that stuff just came across my phone just without even looking for it.
Definitely seems like, yeah, that played into it. That might have derailed some big Phase 3 to Phase 4 plan for the MCU universe. Which, I don't know if you heard, and probably you don't care about the Marvel Cinematic Universe that much, do you? No, not so much.
Yeah, not so much. I mean, maybe like a tad, but I'm also kind of over it.
Yeah. There was a big Comic-Con a couple days ago, I guess, because that's been all over the social medias.
Yeah.
The reveals that came out of that. I'm still way behind on. Haven't seen Wanda. I've only seen one Spider-Man movie post the Endgame. Putting a bow on that part.
Yeah.
So I don't know anything about the multiverse. I don't know about these things.
Yeah. I feel. I mean, I only know about them because of Jeremy, because he loves that stuff. So I ended up watching it with him, but I'm pretty excited though about the what's his name? I don't know the actor's name, but Roy Kent from Ted Lasso is going to be joining the MCU.
You do love Ted Lasso. I still haven't seen season 2, I guess.
Oh my god!
And I don't know why, because I love Ted Lasso too. I'm huge on optimism. I'm huge on those shows where there's no negativity, where you just go there to be uplifted. Like Modern Family is something that Ashley and I have been watching earnestly for a couple months now, and we're already in season 4. And there have only been like a couple things where it pulls at your heartstrings and like that is just sad, and there's no like redeeming quality to it. But that's only super recently. Like prior to that, it's just been nothing but like silly and fun and a good time. I know Ted Lasso had like one part of season 1 where it's like, oh man, that's serious.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's 100% optimism and uplifting and exactly my type of thing. So sorry, I haven't seen season 2 yet.
I mean, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. But yeah, Ted Lasso is one of the greatest TV shows ever. It's basically if you mix Bob Ross, comedy, and sports. Mm-hmm. And just squeeze it all together with some amazing cast.
It's nice. It's nice. It also has that fish out of water, the American dude in the foreign land. I like that.
Yeah, it's very classic. So we watched Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, I kind of don't remember Saturday that well, but Sunday we went and saw Not Up. What is the name of that movie?
Come on, Nate. I haven't even seen it. This is gonna be the second time. Since
okay, there you go. The P for whatever reason. Oh, I know why. It's because the thing that they're noping out about is you look up to see it. So I keep getting it mixed up. But Nope. Saw Nope. Saw it at Alamo Draft House. Long may it rain. Cocktails at 11 a.m. It's a great time. That was a lot of fun. Really great movie. I think out of Nope and I'm going to say the Doppelganger movie because I remember the name of that one. But that one and Get Out, I still think Get Out is the best. That had like the tightest story and the most twists that were kind of unforeseeable. Mm-hmm. This one I would rank after that.
Yeah.
But very, very strong. And especially if you're from Texas or any kind of Western setting, it's a lot of fun because there's a lot of that.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so no spoilers.
Yeah, just see it. Not going to spoil any of the subject matter. Just.
I mean, I already know a little bit about it, but not much because actually Pat talked about it on the show.
We skipped through that. So Ashley and I was cooking in the kitchen, and whenever I do that, often Ashley will bring a laptop in and play either Your Mom's House or McAfee for the day. And that came up, and we both like ran over to the laptop, like, skip.
I mean, he's really good about not spoiling things too much.
Can't risk it.
I personally wasn't that hyped for this movie, so I wouldn't mind like minor spoilers. Mm-hmm. Like he gave away nothing more than what would be in a trailer. So in essence, I saw a trailer, but not really. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely interested, but I don't get excited by movies like that very much. Like Top Gun, I got COVID for Top Gun, and I'd get COVID for Top Gun again. Like I would not change that at all.
Yeah.
Really, other than that, I mean, the last time I was really super jazzed, I guess, was for the most recent Fast and Furious movie, but that came out and we were still pretty deep in COVID, and I was too worried about going. But what did I know? I went saw another movie a year later and still got it. So
I was pretty jazzed for Norsemen, I forget what title they went with, and didn't end up seeing that in theaters, but I'll see that as soon as I can streaming, which might even be right now.
And I swear, as soon as we get Top Gun on a streaming platform, we're going to have like back-to-back nights where you guys come over. First night we watch the first one, just make sure it's fresh, top of mind for everyone. And I'm pretty sure Ashley hasn't seen it at least all the way through, or she just doesn't remember it.
One time you wanted us to see it in 3D, or when the 3D edition came out. That's when we all watched it together.
Yeah.
It's Sirocco.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do that. And another media type thing that I guess I am super excited for that doesn't require me having to go anywhere is the new A League of Their Own series coming out on, I think, Amazon Prime. saw the trailer for that just dropped the other day, and I think it looks incredible.
Yeah.
It has some really cool people in it. My man Nick Offerman
Yeah.
playing the Tom Hanks character.
Yeah, that's great.
That's gonna be awesome for like it being more of a comedy. I mean, the movie there's a lot of comedy in the movie, but I feel like there might be more comedy in the show than there was in the actual movie. But I mean, the movie was a masterpiece, so I really hope they do it justice. If it's anything like the trailer for it, I think it will.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I remember growing up, like as a kid, I was huge into baseball. I loved baseball.
Sure.
Baseball was life, and I literally had a shirt that said "Baseball is life," and I wore it around. I wore it to Disney World one time on a vacation. Like, baseball was everything to me. So every baseball movie I could find and watch, I would watch it as many times as possible. Probably even record it on VHS, and just play it back over and over and just watch them all. Like.
Mm-hmm.
So many baseball movies, I feel like I could just sit down and just rewrite the script to it, or like just write the script from memory. I mean, not rewrite.
Okay, yeah.
And A League of Their Own was one of those movies that I loved it. I just thought it was absolutely amazing. So many amazing actors in that movie, just casted perfectly. Just the whole thing was done so amazing, and I mean, I don't even think it's been all that long since I've seen it, and I want to watch it again just because I saw that trailer. And I'm still,
watch it right now, yeah.
I'm still planning on watching the show. I think it comes out in like a little over a week, maybe like a week from tomorrow. I think.
I know that new Lord of the Rings is coming out at the same time.
Lord of the Rings.
It's like a prequel. Yeah, the prequel.
Game of Thrones.
I think that's coming out too, but no.
There's an actual Lord of the Rings thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't give two shits about that.
It's very controversial on the interwebs, because there's black elves, and folks are like, "What?"
Well, yeah, that's playing with fire right there, I suppose. But
it's fantasy.
It is fantasy. I guess that is something people need to really respect. It's like, well, not really respect. It can be fantasy and you can still do it wrong. I don't know. I guess I just have to see it, but I honestly don't want to see it, but I probably will have to see it eventually. Just...
If Kelly doesn't see it, it's not because he's gone far-right extremist.
I mean, I feel like if I went far-right extremist, I don't want to watch it so I could, one, yell obscenities at the screen, just hard consonants all over the place, but also so I could have something to preach about.
No, see, that's how you know that you're not a far-right extremist, is because you're thinking like logically about it, that I must have to actually see this thing to complain about it, and that's not how it works. I don't know if you know that.
I wish I didn't have to think logically. I wish it didn't just happen. They must be so happy in their little lives with their lack of logic and the fact that they feel like whatever they say just is what it is.
That's an interesting segue to another thing that's in the news.
That's what we call an alley-oop. I just lofted that up. Nathan, slam it.
Alex Jones.
What a tool.
Yeah. So there is this thing, and I don't mean to say that it's exclusive to the right, I guess. But there's this thing that happens to people where whatever it is that's going on doesn't actually... I'll restart. There's this thing that happens with people. Don't know if it's nature, nurture, don't know if it's a particular life experience or what, but just the feeling, the belief, is more than any piece of evidence that could ever be put in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And I often say that just people want to believe what they want to believe. And that was one thing kind of before the internet.
Yeah.
But now, and I say this all the time too, there is no shortage of content creators. There is no shortage of people, good, bad, in between, pumping out incredible amounts of content to rationalize and justify and support any and every position you could possibly have.
Yep.
So if you want to believe the Earth is flat, you will find things that tell you the Earth is flat. And Alex Jones was just eating plates of shit yesterday.
It was glorious.
This hysterical thing happened that I don't know what's going on, but I keep hearing about these things happening more frequently than I ever have in my adult life, of just people flubbing up and sending things unredacted, or sending things that they thought were redacted, but you could just unredact them. Like you send over a Word document with black highlighter over it, and you just undo the highlighter.
Yeah.
And in this case, his attorney sent over all of his either emails or text messages or both.
2 years of text messages.
To the prosecution, to the opposing attorney, and just opened up all of these. Well, you said that you didn't have information on XYZ, and you were lying to us, and we know that you're lying to us because we literally have that information on your text messages. And Alex Jones' response was something like, "I believed I was telling the truth." And the judge was like, "Get the fuck out of here with that." This is not the thing that I keep laughing about in my head is, this is not your radio show. And, you know, I don't know if you ever watched Alex Jones. He's been on for a long time. It's so crazy that he's from Austin, but really, if you've been in and around Austin longer than 2005, it's just part of it being weird. And weird is not always all liberal. Weird used to be pretty libertarian. Like Ron Paul used to fit pretty well into weird. And yeah, so this is not your show. You can't just say things because you believe they're true. Like, I was in the Army National Guard when people like Alex Jones were saying that we were digging mass graves as part of Operation Jade Helm, which was a real thing with like real special forces and in plain clothing doing exercises. But these people, good, bad, in between, will take something like that and use it to say all kinds of crazy stuff. And then people who believe crazy stuff, again, who want to believe crazy stuff, latch onto that and find it. And then you get this pyramid of, you have this final conclusion that's built on top of like one thing you shouldn't have believed after another, after another, after another.
Yeah.
So that was funny to see that Alex Jones get his comeuppance for that.
my just real quick, two of my favorite things about it. One of them, I guess, I don't know if I could call it a favorite thing, but I feel so bad for that judge. Because I watched a few of the videos of everything that went on. I didn't watch a ton of it, but she literally looked like she was handling a toddler. Like, just like, speaking to like, "Mr. Jones, no, you cannot lie here. You keep lying. Quit it." And it's just like, how everybody had to just like dumb things down. Like, they were just all speaking to him like a toddler because that's all you can really do with a person like that. And then my other just really favorite part was when the attorney of the parents asked him, "Do you know what perjury is?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm not a tech guy." That just, oh my god, I couldn't stop laughing at that. I'm like, what a fucking moron.
That's another thing that people do, is they'll have like their bullet point or their corner to walk into. And he knew getting up there, like, I'm just going to say I'm not a tech guy, and that's going to make sense. And so as soon as he got to the first question where he's like, I don't know how to answer that, I'm not a tech guy.
I mean, to be fair, the way I just portrayed it was a hair out of context, but it's still, it's real and it's ridiculous.
Well, I think in the same line of questioning, the guy cross-examining Alex Jones also had to be like, you can plead the fifth.
Yeah.
You can choose not to say something incriminating. You can choose not to say something that will get you in more trouble.
Pretty sure he said, like, I need to know that you know that.
It's always wonderful. That guy must have been having the time of his life.
That was the best day of probably his whole life, if not just his professional career. Like, he is set for the rest of his career. He will be hired over and over again for what he's done.
So here's something that I see people talk about and say about Alex Jones. They'll literally call him like a right-wing terrorist. And...
It's fair.
Okay, you're saying fair, you're nodding. My issue is that in a capitalist society, in a post-internet world, if there are literally tens of millions of people who want to hear the things that Alex Jones says, isn't he failing everyone not to give the people what they want? Because I see Alex Jones as an evolution or the next iteration of a guy like George Norrie. Do you know who George Norrie?
Mm-hmm.
Coast to Coast, AM Coast to Coast. I used to love that shit growing up. Especially when we were in high school driving around and stuff and whatever in the morning.
That's why we weren't super close yet. we hadn't gotten to that point because I wasn't going to let you in yet because I was always like,
Guy was talking about UFOs, people time traveling from the future, just all this things that never ever happened. But there are tens of millions of people who want to believe that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, at what point is it Alex Jones's fault? And at what point is it the fault of we the people for not being better, smarter enough to not want that in such quantities that a guy like Alex Jones can make millions and millions of dollars a day peddling nonsense?
So, I could give you probably a pretty lengthy answer. Like, a lot of things just came to my head that I felt like I could answer what you just said. Mm-hmm. If you're okay with that.
That's what we're here for, right?
Alright. So first, this isn't a new phenomenon. Mm-hmm. It's just really being magnified because of technology and because of ease of access. Really, I'll apologize beforehand saying this if this really offends any of you. This is just me. This is what I believe. This is my personal thoughts. I'm not meaning any offense, and if you take it, feel free to hate me. That's okay. I mean you no ill will. But that's just what religion is. And religion has been around for a long, long time. Mm. It's just people love stories. People love being enthralled and enraptured in something. Like, they love to be a part. They excuse me. They get involved with it emotionally, mentally, and they connect with it. They connect with these stories. They connect with the thought that there is someone above them that is the controller of everything, and we just gotta obey some rules and praise him, and we'll be good. And I mean, if you believe that, I respect you. I respect everybody's choice to do that, but I just personally don't believe that's a real thing. I think it's just more people are drawn to that. So then fast forward, we still have that kind of ingrained in us. I mean, I was brought up, I had to go to church, so there was definitely a time in my life where it was a real thing for me.
Same.
And, I mean, I won't lie, I definitely learned some good things from it.
Very much so.
I think it made me a good person, but it's not everything that made me a good person, but there are some things to it that I took and feel like made me better. But moving forward now, even probably, I guess right around when the internet was taking off, maybe a little before, a lot of things started changing. And they weren't changing just by themselves. There's been... And this could be considered conspiracy theory talk. I haven't done enough real research to really bring this home, but I had a deep conversation with my brother, who's very, very knowledgeable. He does his research. And, I mean, and this has been said before, too. I've read it in news media or whatever. And it's just, they're out to make us dumber. And it's really been happening. Like, me and my brother got in a big conversation about what our schooling was like growing up. Like, the teachers we had, and how for where we are located in the country, in the state of Texas, it being a very, very right-wing conservative area, we didn't, like, it didn't really affect us. I mean, given we're white, we're men, so, okay, we got that, I understand. But there just wasn't a lot to it. And in school, we had teachers, like I was talking to my brother, like, we were taught in school that the Civil War was because of slavery, basically.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't say it in exact words, like, they taught us that it was because of slavery and slavery was bad.
Mm-hmm.
And they taught us a bunch of other stuff that they're starting to take out. And then they're also reducing budgets of schools, and just schooling, education has just been going downhill so fast. And again, this doesn't affect the older people as much because it's people our age and older had a better chance at proper schooling. But there's a lot of schooling that wasn't proper even back in the day. But now just everywhere, what they're doing to education, they're just perpetuating us getting dumber and dumber. And to be fair, and this will probably cause shots if any of you out there are listening and disagree with me, but being dumber causes you to be more right-wing conservative because it's easier to follow these stories, to follow these fantasies, to get yourself connected to people that have these same feelings that you do that are just completely batshit crazy. And yeah, so this is being manufactured. Like, removing abortion that is going to be a huge thing for conservative Republicans moving forward, because it's going to cause so many unwanted children that are neglected. They grow up dumb and not educated. It's going to cause so many people so much financial strife that they'll never be able to provide the life of these kids, especially now they're trying to turn all schools into private schools, basically, because they're defunding the public schools so much that you'd have to send your kid to private school or you're a shitty parent and they won't get an education because the teachers are the ones that have to go out and buy the crayons and the markers and the paper and all that stuff because they're not funding it. And then the teachers that are making about as much as somebody who works at McDonald's are spending their money on that. It's just, they're designing it to get worse. And I don't see how we can recover at this point. Okay. Rant over. For the moment. Unless you say something that triggers me. But I feel like I said a lot of stuff right there.
No, my appreciation, understanding of the situation is probably more nuanced than that, right? In support of what you said, definitely, and I'm a big history guy, right? Definitely private schools and the rise of private schools was a direct reaction to the civil rights legislation that Lyndon B. Johnson passed and wanting to pull your white kids out of desegregated schools in the South, at least.
Mm-hmm.
There have always been like Catholic schools and stuff that maybe that doesn't apply to, but certainly that is a movement here in the South. And big picture of people, I do think there is a difference between, especially since Roe v. Wade, and especially in Texas, the conservatives have been on message, been on track with the things that they want, and have voted as a very strong, solid bloc for decades at this point. And that's reflected in the gerrymandering of our congressional districts here, that's reflected in our state legislature and everything that means in the context of a post-Roe world, but also what it means in the context of things like electing alternate electors for the president whenever that comes around.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole big conversation as far as what are the non-conspiratorial, what are the fact-based. Here's how the GOP and evangelical conservatives have schemed to get an outsized amount of power for the relatively small slice of the electorate that they are. There is a lot of non-conspiratorial look up Thomas Hofeller from North Carolina. He was the mastermind behind gerrymandering and redistricting throughout most of the South, and why you would do that for the sake of getting Supreme Court nominees, essentially. I think we are at a turning point now, and I do think that the recent election in Kansas kind of reflects this, of the dog catching the car.
Yeah.
Now that Roe v. Wade has been undone, how much does that affect specifically evangelical Christians' ability to remain a voting bloc and counter the resistance and backlash to what's happened? Not just, among liberals and city folks, but even among conservatives who think that that's gone too far.
I will say Kansas is kind of a unique state. Because I'm pretty positive they have a Democratic governor, and they might have a Democratic senator. Maybe it's congressperson. But, I mean, it's still a huge win and a huge, okay, something real is kind of happening here. But it's also kind of, it's not like the reddest of red states did this. But it's still, it looks awesome. And it's just wild to me that Kansas has in their legislature, whatever, that they can call a referendum and the state can vote on something and then that becomes it. In Texas, we don't have that.
No, that's like California does that all the time. They have referendums all the time. That's, not something that we do here in Texas. Definitely between the two of us, I don't mind holding the mantle as the more conservative between the two of us.
I guarantee that.
I will try to defend the right and the conservative where I can, but where I can't is definitely the scheming to control power for the sake of power. Like, that's never been okay with me. I don't know if we want to get into it now, but like my most radical political position, my thing that I want more than anything, is the end of national political parties, and for us to turn upside down the paradigm we've had basically since the founding of, this was supposed to be a nation where everybody votes for who represents their values and decision making from the bottom up, and then that just kind of builds on top of itself to where you have a Congress that you don't know what's going to come out of it because it's representatives from all over the place. And what we've been doing instead is we're going to come up with these parties and we're going to scheme to put the end first. We want, if you go way, way back, we want interstate roads, we want more trade, we want all these kind of national objectives, versus the other folks who said, no, we just want it to be safe to be on our side of the ocean, and each state kind of rules itself. But that's not really how it's supposed to be. And you're not supposed to be undoing checks and balances by putting your party in the White House and Congress. And used to not be, you would never think of a Republican or Democrat or a party letter behind the Supreme Court justices. Now, obviously, we do. But even in Congress, you're not supposed to be thinking that way between the Senate and the House. Everything is supposed to be in opposition to each other so that the things that do happen go through that checks and balances process. And since the beginning, we've turned that upside down of, no, we've got a gang, and we're going to try and push this gang through so we can get the things through that we want. Or, in the case of the Civil War, to stop things from happening that the majority want to happen. And that was one thing pre-internet and pre-radio even, where you had such distances and you had regional silos, where even in a party you still had compromises that had to happen.
Yeah.
And now we're just in this whole different place since the internet of, no, we can really organize these different states even and do all these things that are so anti-federal, so states' rights is a dirty word, a dirty combination of words in a lot of audiences.
Mm-hmm.
But that is literally how it's supposed to be. Of all these disparate audiences and the things that happen at the national level get through that process of checks and balances and whatever those disparate audiences can agree upon. And that's been totally turned upside down, where somebody more liberal than myself would say there shouldn't be an electoral college, there shouldn't be a senate, because those are just used by small states to impose the rule of a minority over the majority. And to that, I would say most of those states have cities in them. Most of those states should have more blue voters than red. I don't know why you're not organizing them. And then those people would tell me it's because the red team, the conservative, has been in control of them for so long that they do things like keep you from voting in cities, make it harder to vote in cities, which we see in Texas, but famously that's what was happening in Georgia for a long time until Stacey Abrams was like, we need to build that into the plan. We just need to understand there's going to be lines and get out all the city folk. And then you saw what happened in Georgia.
Right.
So it's like 8 minutes of me talking about the big picture. I do think that, again, in defense of conservatism in the context of politics, I do think that the Electoral College and the Senate and the checks and balances and making legislation hard, I do believe in those things. I do think the Constitution is a strong document, but I also would say in the same sentence that we fucked it up from the start with national political parties and how that's anathema to the idea of bottom-up government and how that's been top-down government from basically the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to let anyone listening know, I'm not the liberal right there that Nathan was talking about. I'm not that far gone. Although I am maybe a little bit more liberal than Nate may be. But
I think you definitely are. I think that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've got no problem saying it, and I'll say it to anyone's face what I feel. But I'm not that liberal. I feel that everything you said about the Constitution is fairly true. But yeah, it's just... I mean, the way it was set up, like, people that ran for... or that were in office that held seats, they were, like... they're basically, like, fucking just farmers. And then they go do a tour in Washington, do their thing, and then they go back home and go back to farming and finishing their lives that way. Like, it wasn't a career thing. I think that's one of the bigger problems. I'm not saying we can fully go back to that, because to have the knowledge you need to do what you want to really accomplish and all that stuff, you're going to need years of school. You're going to need a lot of... it's just going to take a lot more than just the average Joe. Like, I'm not going to trust the average person to just go up and take a seat in Congress and, like, do the right thing. But it's still... it shouldn't be like a profession. If it... and I fully agree about the parties. Like, that's a problem. But the thing is, I don't think you can ever get away from it, because the people that get elected, they have power. And power brings them money and gives them all kinds of safety nets, and just that always is going to attract people. Like, humans have an innate evil in them, where a portion of them are always going to choose their own needs and their own wants over the greater good. And I just don't see it ever changing.
I definitely want to talk at length about the distribution of values in folks, because I do think a lot about that. And definitely I could talk for hours on end about the differences between the 13 colonies in 1780 versus 50 states, global hegemon in 2022, nuclear arsenal, and all these things that are just, again, not on the same page with the founding of this nation. But we're sort of coming up on time. I know that we want to talk about a couple more things, so I will save two of them and instead say Hall of Fame game tonight.
Happy fucking football Thursday. We are back. I mean, I'm going to probably watch the first series and I'm out.
Trevor Lawrence isn't playing, But
Nobody's playing.
Yeah.
No one you've ever heard of is going to be playing tonight. But there will be men in NFL uniforms on a football field with referees, cameras on, the lights on. We will have broadcasters talking. I'm sure there will be a bunch of great interviews with Hall of Fame inductees and Hall of Famers, and just everyone you know will be around. It's electric. It's tonight. It's really, as of now, half an hour from now. We're recording this, and I just couldn't be happier. There's just so many great things for me about football. One, I love football as a sport. It is amazing, although I quit playing it pretty early on because I wasn't tough enough for it, even though I had the body for it. But I just didn't really like hitting people. But I like watching other people hit other people.
Ashley likes that a lot.
If I could have been a skill position player, I probably would have had a lot more fun. But being in the trenches on the line, offense, defense line, there is no fun to be had in that for me, personally. But I love football. I love the fact that football is leading us into fall. We're almost over the hump of summer.
Yeah.
Coming into that downfall where we actually can get livable weather again.
We haven't complained about it, but it's been just as hot as the times we did complain.
I wanted to talk all episode just about the heat again, but I'm not that old. I can't talk about that often. Mm-hmm. I also love football season because it basically is also the start of what I like to refer as our birthday season within our group. Mm-hmm. Ashley, she's like the Ashley, no offense if you're listening to this, but I mean this in the best way possible.
She's not.
Her birthday is like the Hall of Fame game of our birthday season. She kicks it off, but she kicks it off way early where we can't really call ourselves in the season yet, but it's that taste. Mm-hmm. In July, we get her birthday, and then as NFL's kicking up, we get Jeremy's birthday. A month later, a little less than that, we have your birthday. 2 weeks from that is Corey's birthday. 2 more weeks from that is my birthday. So it's birthday season. It's always a fun time. We always go pretty far out for each other for our birthdays, just because it's fun to do so. Mm-hmm. And then also it's leading us into that fall holiday season. Like I'm a fucking sucker for holidays. I love Halloween. I love Thanksgiving, and I really fucking love Christmas. Mm-hmm. So there's just so many things about the start of football season where the Hall of Fame game is boring as it could possibly be. It's that benchmark. It's like, all right, we made it. Let's go.
That just got me hyped.
And just less than a week, like 5 days, we get the first episode of Hard Knocks this season with the Detroit Lions. Get to see what MCDC's up to. Get to see what Jared Goff is up to. Everything. And then Pat McAfee, he's moving to his new Thunderdome soon, so that's going to bring a lot of more fun. I'm so pumped. And
you didn't even say.
I didn't even say it. Fantasy football. We are huge into fantasy football over here in this family.
That's what we did Saturday.
Yes, that is what we did Saturday. I completely forgot too. We had our annual commissioners conference that Nathan and I have to discuss the upcoming fantasy football season. Nathan and I are the co-commissioners of a fantasy football league that's been around for... Is this 11 year?
Yep.
Year 11?
Year
That's
11.
right. It's XI this year. It's something that we both love and cherish, and Ashley now loves and cherishes it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, everything's just starting to happen.
It cheered me up.
I got pretty hyped talking about it.
Well, listen there.
Yeah. So on that note, everybody, I hope you enjoy the start of the NFL season.
Don't get monkeypox.
Don't go getting monkeypox. Yeah, and that's about it. We'll catch you next week. Love you guys. Have a good one.
Peace.